As you're working with digital audio, you're going to be working with various sample rates, bit depths, and correspondingly, the size of the files will change based on that sample rate and bit depth. So you need to understand some basic numbers that will help you know how much disk space you may need as you're working on a particular song or session. So a 44.1 16-bit file that's mono, that's 1 minute in length, is 5 megabytes of storage. So if it's a stereo file, then it's going to be double that, or 10 megabytes. If it's 44.1 and 24-bit, it's around 7.5 megabytes per minute, double that if it's a stereo file as well. Also, you can figure out about how large a file size is going to be by realizing the relationship between various file sizes. So if you have a 44.1 16-bit audio file that's 5 megabytes, it's mono, and maybe you are working with a sample size that's bigger, like 88.2. 88.2 16-bit is just going to be double that size. So 44.1 16 was 5, 88.2 16 will be 10. If it's a stereo file, it would be 20 megabytes per minute. So you need to be familiar with these numbers basically, and I've also included this information in your Quizlet study cards. So check those out. Next, let's talk about digital transfers. So transferring digital from one place to another place. You can do that, and if you're going from one digital device to another digital device, you may wind up using some type of cable to actually make that transfer. Now, you're very familiar with these kinds of cables. You've seen them on the backs of CD players for years, right? These are called RCA jacks. They are analog. In other words, they send an electrical signal. You can also have this exact same type of jack, but in a digital format. And it has a different name. It's not called RCA like these are. Even though the jacks look identical, they're called SPDIF, S-P-D-I-F, SPDIF jacks. So if you're doing a digital transfer and it needs this kind of jack coming out of one machine into another, that's a SPDIF jack. Another type of cable you'll come across is a standard XLR mic cable. Looks just like this. You've seen these. It's used with every microphone that's in existence. Now, again, this is an analog cable and an analog signal. Now, you can also make a digital transfer with another type of cable that looks just like this, but it's a digital cable, and it's called an AES EBU cable. Stands for Audio Engineer Society European Broadcast Union. It's just a format that they've developed that everybody can use across the planet. So you have AES EBU, which is this style, and then going back to the RCA jack, you have SPDIF, which stands for Sony Philips Digital Interface, and it has that type of jack on the end. So two digital jack types, SPDIF and AES EBU. When using Pro Tools, you're going to come across three basic versions of the software. One is called Pro Tools First, which is a cut-down version of the software. There's also Pro Tools Standard, or regular Pro Tools. And then there's what's called Pro Tools Ultimate, which is the most high-powered version of the software. In our lab, we'll be using Pro Tools Ultimate for the most part, but on your own, or if you purchase the software, most likely you'll be using Pro Tools Standard, which has just a few less bells and whistles. With Pro Tools, we're really talking about two different types of systems. One uses the host power of the CPU or your computer to process all of its data, and an additional one is called HDX, and that has a separate card. It's a PCIe card that slides into your computer itself, and that has additional processing power that Pro Tools can use, as well as the host CPU's processing power. So a host-based system using the CPU's processing power, or an HD or HDX system, which uses the processing power of the host, as well as a separate PCIe card that slides into your computer to give you a little extra calculating power.